Hello everyone, welcome to this video lecture on understanding the concept of time value of money. The very crucial questions which need to be answered by using this concept are like, if I put up that how to determine today the monetary value of cash transactions that are expected in near future, that is the equivalence of the cash flow diagrams which are expected to occur at some future point of time. What is the value of those transactions at the present point of time? Another question, say to have X amount of money at any future point of time, what should I possess now so that over the time period this amount which I possess now that must be equivalent to some other amount over a period of time. Another question, investing now or holding it for future, which is the better investment in the present circumstances. Another one, where to invest if we have multiple options for investing, like putting up the amount of money in a bank or investing it in an alternative one or in alternative two, which one is best suited for us. So these are some of the questions which one can answer if we know the concept behind time value of money. So let us first understand what do we mean by time value of money. Time value of money simply refers to the fact that money in hand today is worth more than the same amount of money promised at some future point of time. Or if I put it in another way, like which one we would prefer, to have $100 today or to have same $100 after 5 years of time? Of course, the answer will be $100 today. But to make it a bit more complicated, let me put up another question, $100 today or $1,000 in 5 years. So the answer to this is now a bit complicated because we have to do certain analysis and only then we can answer this. So this is because of the fact that we all know that the value of money depends upon the time frame which we are talking of. Simply we can say that time value of money is basically responsible for judging whether to hold the money right now or to invest the money in some venture, because interest is always associated with money. Or in other words, money received sooner rather than later allows one to use the fund for investment or for consumption, and this concept basically refers to as time value of money. This is because of the fact that time allows one the opportunity to postpone consumption and to earn interest. If we are not investing, we are simply putting up the money in a bank, we are getting some interest on it. So when it comes to interest, we all are aware that we are having two types of interest. One is simple and compound. Many calculations we already did on simple and compound interest in our class 8th or 9th standard. The concept is very simple. Simple interest, if just to revise, if the interest rate is 5% and if I invest 500 rupees, then the interest earned is 5% of 500, that is 25 per year if the rate of interest is 5% per year. So the total interest earned, if we are using simple interest, it will be 25 into 2, and what we get back after 2 years is 500 plus 25 plus 25, that is 550. So this is simple interest. But the calculations for compound interest is that in the first year what we have earned is 500 plus 5% per annum if the interest, then the money accumulated at the end of year 1 will be 500 plus 25. That means 525. So in the second year, this will become the principal amount and 5% interest will be earned on this 525. So after, we if we just calculate how much is the balance in my account after the end of 2 years, it will be somewhat more than 550, rather 551.25. So this is the basic difference between simple interest and compound interest, and we are all familiar with it. Now, whenever we solve any economy problem based on cash flows or based on the time value of money, the one of the basic thing is, first of all, we must know how to draw a cash flow diagram. Cash flow diagram is nothing but simply it's a graphical representation of all the transactions which are taking place. Now, if we look up at the transactions, generally we have two types of transactions. Either we are earning something, or we can say that money is coming in our hand, or we are investing something. That means money is going out of my hand or pocket. So we have two types of transactions. One is what we call as cash inflow, when we are earning something or when the money is coming in our pocket, and when we are spending or investing this money, this is known as cash flow. So any pictorial representation of this is termed as a cash flow diagram. So we have two transactions. So the terminology is that whenever we have cash inflow, it will be denoted by an arrow upward, and whenever we have a cash outflow, that is, if the money is going out of one's pocket, it will be denoted by an arrow downward. The same analogy can be used as what we are having in our passbooks. Either we are having some credit or we are having some debit. If we are having some credit, it will be denoted by an arrow upward, and if we are having some debit, it will be depicted by an arrow downward. Vice versa we can also use, but the same nomenclature or the same terminology must be followed throughout the problem. So this is a typical representation of a cash flow diagram. We are having arrows which shows the amount or the degree of investment, and their direction basically depicts whether the cash is inflow or the cash is outflow. One of the important thing to note here is that we have a time scale. So every transaction has to take place at the end of that particular time period. Say between year zero, within year one, if we have multiple transactions, then all these transactions will be depicted at the end of year one. So whatever years we are having on the horizontal line, it depicts the the end time of that particular year. Similarly, if we are having n number of transactions between year 2 to year 3, all these transactions will be depicted at the end of year 3. So this is the terminology which we generally use whenever we are drawing the cash flow diagrams. Another important thing is that in which perspective we are drawing the cash flow diagram. Because if I am drawing the cash flow diagram as a account holder of the bank, the direction of arrows will be entirely opposite if I am drawing the same diagram from the bank's perspective. So we call it as borrower's perspective and lender's perspective. The only difference between the two, that the direction of arrows or the direction of the transactions will get reversed. So generally speaking, we have some standardized cash flows. So these standardized cash flows, basically they help us to find out the relationship between various worths, like what is the relationship between present worth and future worth, what is the relationship between present worth and annuities. So in that way, we have certain standard series. We'll see what do we mean by present worth and future worth in due course of time. But these are some of the standard series. Like if in the whole cash flow, if we are having just a single transaction, it may be at any point of time, then that type of series is known as a single payment series, as shown in the very first figure. Similarly, if we have same transactions occurring over a period of time starting from the end of year 1 and continuing till the time for which we are drawing the cash flow. This kind of series is termed as annuities. So in the second line, the first diagram basically present annuities. Sometimes we call them as uniform series also. So the important thing to note here is that we are having the first transaction at the end of year 1 and the same amount of transaction continues till the end, for which we are drawing the cash flow diagram. A very simple example for this is the repayment of loan. Every time we are paying the same amount of money extending to 5 years, 10 years or 15 years, whatever may be the repay period. So the important thing is the first transaction is occurring at the end of year 1 and the same transaction continues till end. However, in another case, if the transactions they are not starting immediately at the end of year 1, we call this series as a deferred annuity. So it may be deferred by a year, it may be deferred by 2 years, it may be deferred by 3 years. So if the transaction is not starting at the end of year 1, rather it is starting after some period of time, then we call this series as a deferred annuity as shown in the diagram. Then apart from this, we have a series where we have, say for example, the amount is spent on maintenance of any vehicle. So initially we don't require any, or there is no investment on maintenance, but as the vehicle or as the gadget grows older, we require higher amount of money on its maintenance. So that can be represented in two forms. One is what we call as an arithmetic gradient series and another one is what we call as a geometric gradient series. The basic difference between the two is that in arithmetic gradient series, the first transaction is occurring at the end of year 2 and every year this transaction is increased by a fixed amount till n number of years. So if the first transaction which is occurring at the end of year 2, if we say that this transaction is of G amount, then next year it will be G plus any other fixed amount. So in this case we are taking the fixed amount to be G, so it will be 2G, similarly 3G, 4G, and finally we have n minus 1G at t equal to n. But instead, if we have the fixed percentage, addition of fixed percentage every year, each year till the end of the year, then we call this as a geometric gradient series. So again, these two types of series, we can just visualize the amount of money invested on carrying out the maintenance of any machine or vehicle. So these are some of the standard cash flow. So now let us see some of the symbols and terminology which we generally use when we are drawing any cash flow diagram. So in any cash flow diagram, P basically represents the present value of the transaction. It may be the amount of money at present. It is also sometimes referred to as present worth, PW, or present value, PV, net present value, or discounted cash flow and capital cost. So P represents the present worth of any transaction, and this P is basically the transaction which is occurring at time t equal to 0 or when n equal to 0. Apart from this, any other transaction which is taking place apart from t equal to 0, that will be termed as future worth. So it may be at the end of nth year, it may be in between also. But any transaction which is taking place not at t equal to 0, but rather at any future point of time, that will be termed as future worth and it will be denoted by F. Sometimes it is also known as FW, future worth, or future value, FV. Annuities, we all know, they are represented by A. Same amount of transaction occurring each year, every year, beginning at the end of year 1 and continuing till the end of the cash flow diagram. N represents the number of years, I represents the interest rate per period. It may be per year, it may be 6 monthly, it may be monthly depending upon the problem. And T and N both denotes the time frame. So this is the terminology which we generally use whenever we are drawing the cash flow diagram. Now, the most important thing, why we are drawing the cash flow diagram and what computations we will do in using these cash flow is we have to find out the equivalence of the cash flow diagrams. Equivalence simply means, if we just recall what questions I have put up in the very first slide, that what money I should possess now, so that this money must be equal to X amount of money in near future. So that is what we mean by equivalence. So economic equivalence is the combination of the interest rate and the time value of money to determine the different amounts of money at different point of time that are equal in economic value. That means if the transaction, X transaction is taking place at t equal to 0, what will be the equivalent of this transaction at t equal to, say, n. So this is what we mean by equivalence. So in order to study equivalence, there are certain relationships. That is the relationship between the present worth and future worth. We call it relationship between P and F. We have relationship between present worth and annuities. That is the relationship between P and A. Similarly, we have a relationship between present worth and the geometric and the gradient series, arithmetic or geometric gradient series. And we have a relationship between annuities and a gradient series. If we know these four relationships, we can find out any relationship. Like for example, if we are interested in finding out the relationship between F and G, and we know the relationship between P and F and P and G, we can eliminate this P and find out what will be the relationship between F and G. Let us see some of the standard relationships. So if we see the relationship between P and F, so for any relationship, we must first see that what is the standard cash flow diagram for that. So as I have already told you, that P is any transaction which is taking place at n equal to 0 or t equal to 0, and F is any future transaction. So just to see, say if the principal, or right now the transaction P transaction is there, and if we wish to determine the value of this transaction at the end of, say, 1 year, where I is the interest rate. So the interest charged in a year is nothing but I into P. So the amount of equivalent amount of money accumulated at the end of first year will be P plus IP, or we can say P parenthesis 1 plus I. Now this becomes the principal amount for the second year, and if I is the interest rate, so interest will be I% of P 1 plus I. Finally, what is accumulated at the end of second year will be P parenthesis 1 plus I to the power 2. So on and so forth. Similarly, if we are interested in finding out the future worth of any transaction P, it will be nothing but F is equal to P 1 plus I to the power n, which is evident from the table given in the slide. So the thing is that if we know the present transaction, the amount of present transaction, we know the interest rate, and we know the time period, using this relationship we can find out the equivalence of any present transaction in future course of time. So this is the relationship between P and F. Similarly, this relationship can be expressed in this form also, where we can use the standard tables given at the end of any engineering economy book. That is, F is equal to P parenthesis F oblique P comma I comma N, and the term within the parenthesis is basically called as the future value interest factor. And for this we have a standard tables available at the end of any book on engineering economy. So this will ease our computations, and this is read as finding F when P is given with I as interest rate and N is the time period, or over the time period N. So this is the nomenclature which you will find in some of the books, and this is because of the fact that standard tables can be used to find out this interest, the value of the interest factor. So let us see one of the very simple problem. This is the cash flow. P we have to find out, the future worth is given as dollar say 12,000 and the interest rate is given as 5% per annum. So what will be the equivalent of this f at the present point of time? If we just substitute the value, f we know, p we have to find out, I is given as 5% or 0.05 and n is given as 5. If we just substitute the value, we can find out what will be the equivalent value of this future transaction f at the present point of time. So this is how we apply the relationship to find out the equivalence of any cash flow diagram. Let us see some more relationship, a standard relationship between between P and A. So P is something what we are calculating at n equal to 0, and the standard series for annuities is the same transaction taking place at the end of the series, where the first transaction is starting at n equal to 1. So these are the two series as shown in the figure. So the equivalence of these two series, we have the equivalence if we can compute A with the help of P with this particular formula, which is given P parenthesis 1 plus I to the power n upon 1 plus I to the power n minus 1. So once we know the relationship between P and A, we just substitute P with F, we can find out the relationship between F and A. So this is the relationship between P and A, and one has to keep in mind that these relationships are valid whenever we are having a standard series. Even in this series, if we somehow eliminate a transaction from the annuities which is taking place at 1, then this formula is not valid. This formula is just valid if we are having a standard series as shown here. For arithmetic gradient series, we all know the first transaction is taking place at n equal to 2, and every time the transaction is increasing by a fixed amount. So that is what an arithmetic gradient series is. So if I find out the relationship between a gradient series and the present one, these are the standard relationships. So we can use these standard relationships to find out what is the equivalence of this gradient series shown in the center with P, what is the equivalence of this gradient series with annuities, and what is the equivalence of this gradient series with F, with these three formulas. One has to remember that these formulas are only valid if we have these transactions. If somehow we eliminate the gradient transaction which is taking place at n equal to 2, then this formula will not be a valid one. We have to then manipulate the formula in such a way that we can apply this to a modified series. So this is all about the various relationship between the transactions, present, future and annuities. So thank you very much. So in our next slide, we will see how we use these standard relationship to find out the equivalence of cash flow diagrams. Hope you have enjoyed this lecture. Thank you very much.